Hello viewers and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Conquest video production. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today, I'm glad to present you with a reading of the third installment of our Planetfall cycle narrative, Toof and Claw. This is the story insert included within the war pack, Deadly Salvage, and it's the third of a series of short stories which together compose a background narrative for Conquest LCG. So, be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of the third chapter of our ongoing story, and please share your initial assessment and first impressions of our overarching plot. But with our premise aside, I hope you enjoy Toof and Claw. The engine of the Blood Runner roared as the customized truck sped across the arid plains of the planet Sakhalem. War Boss Gorzod held fast to the helm, the breakneck speed of the vehicle sending his orcish mind reeling with adrenaline. He slammed his armored foot down upon the accelerator, putting yet another dent into the floor. A belch of flame and black smoke erupted from the truck's exhaust as it burst forward to join with a horde of ramshackle tanks and war buggies.
"Come on, boys, I saw him for myself. Just lay it there for the taking,"
Gorzod howled.
"After this all, we can make the whole lot of you almost as killy as me."
He threw his power claw forward, eliciting a battle cry from the war band that rose above the rumbling of engines and clanking of metal. On the horizon, the corpse of the Keru Aramaeus crept into view. The remains of the Space Hulk rested in a massive gouge in the landscape, its hull torn to shreds. In front of it lay a vast field of debris formed from the fragments that broke off as it crashed onto the planet. The debris made the path all the more exciting for the Orc warband, and they weaved their vehicles in and out between the gargant-sized hunks of metal with deadly glee. Gorzod led the reckless mob to a clearing in the debris near the center of the Hulk, only losing a couple of boys to vehicular mishaps along the way. Near a huge breach in the hull, he brought his truck to a halt and dropped down onto the dirt, landing with a clatter of metal and moving pistons. He marveled at the entire squadron of Imperial tanks that were sitting in the open in front of the breach, and his mech boy mind reeled with ideas of the deadly sort of things he could create with this kind of firepower. As Gorzod marched closer to his prize, he noticed that many of the tanks had been torn open on the side facing the Hulk, and splashes of dried blood covered the ground nearby. He wondered for the briefest moment why the Humies would leave perfectly good tanks just lying around, but this thought was quickly squashed by his overwhelming greed.
"With a little tweaking, we could get these tanks all good, proper, and ready to fight. Time to get to work, boys,"
Gorzod yelled to the gaggle of mechs gathering nearby, and sprung to work fixing the huge Crusader tank. The air filled with the sound of welding and metal banging, while Gretchen frantically ran around with salvaged chunks of metal from the wreckage of the Space Hulk. A pair of them rushed to Gorzod's side with as much scrap as they could carry. Gorzod took each of these parts in turn and inspected them each individually before he unceremoniously bolted them over the torn open side of the Crusader in crude fashion. As he hammered on the last bit, sealing up the hole, he remarked,
"Now that's looking good. Just needs a splotch of blue paint for luck, or maybe red."
Gorzod climbed onto his new tank and chuckled, looking forward to the first burst of speed he could crank out of the engine. It would probably need some more work to really get it going fast, he thought to himself. It was made by Humies after all. But soon he'd be cruising this tank right into the city they were so proud of, and crumping each and every one of them. As he reached the top, he ripped the hatch right off the tank with his power claw and jumped inside. The smell of blood and promethium surrounded Gorzod as he glanced around the tank's interior, hunting for something he could use to turn the thing on. Small beams of light poured into the tank from holes torn in the tank's metal hide, illuminating the dark enough to see a guardsman's corpse slumped over in the driver's seat of the tank.
There we go!
Gorzod rushed over and pushed the body out of his way and jabbed a greasy hand onto the tank's ignition. The tank rumbled to life as the engine started, and a single light flickered on above him, revealing the gore-stained cabin where he stood. A shrieking roar reverberated through the tank, causing Gorzod to swing around just in time to see two gene stealers leaping from the darkness toward him, claws and fangs bared. On instinct, he raised his arm to meet the tide of claws, knocking away one of the gene stealers and snatching the other in a deadly grip. Gorzod snapped shut the talons of his power claw, turning the gene stealer into a pile of gooey chunks and causing a warm spray of purple ichor to hit his face. The other gene stealer sprung to its feet and launched itself into Gorzod's side, ripping through his metal armor with ease and carving out a piece of his flesh in the process. Snarling in pain, Gorzod gripped the handle of his custom slugga and began firing wildly in the direction of the gene stealer, burying it under a hail of bullets. Its corpse fell to the ground with a wet thud and began spasming as the life drained out of it. Having crushed his immediate foes, Gorzod dashed to the turret of the tank to check outside. As he emerged from the darkness of the tank, he was met with the sound of weapons fire and snarling. His boys were engaged in a full-fledged battle against a horde of gene stealers that were pouring out from inside of the Hulk and looked to outnumber them 3-1. Gorzod activated the controls for the Crusader's turret and turned it toward the oncoming wave of creatures while bellowing to his troops, "War!" So, there you are. That was Toof and Claw, the third chapter in the overall Planetfall cycle narrative. What did you think about the story, and what do you think about our overall plot thus far? Also, what would you like to see done with future narrative elements for Conquest LCG? Be sure to let me know in the comments, but as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, you're always encouraged to share this content, because the more individuals there are that end up exposed to Conquest, the more people may pick up this living card game, give it a try, enjoy what they experience, and send the message to Fantasy Flight Games telling them to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you ever feel so inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant, I would be absolutely honored were you to make a donation or contribution to my Patreon. But, as always, thank you so much for watching, and once again, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.